Ever wondered where a billionaire bad boy of the 80s and 90s might hide his secret sanctuary? Let's take a trip to a Caribbean island so secretive, Google Maps might just wink at you and say, good luck. This slice of paradise wasn't listed in any tourist brochure because its main attraction was the once lavish, now run-down mansion of the infamous Pablo Escobar.
¿Usted puede asegurar que su dinero nunca ha tenido vinculación con el narcotráfico?
Siempre he asegurado que mi dinero no tiene vínculos con el narcotráfico.
But who the heck is Pablo Escobar, you may ask? Born on December 1st, 1949 in Rio Negro and raised in the nearby city of Medellin, Escobar's early life was far from the wealth and infamy that would follow. The third of 7 children, he was born into humble beginnings. His father worked the land as a farmer and his mother was a school teacher. The streets of Medellin, where he spent his early years, were rough and unforgiving. Dropping out of high school before his 17th birthday, Escobar and his cousin Gustavo Gaviria returned to school 2 years later, only to be viewed as nothing more than gangster bullies. They dropped out again after a year and Escobar dabbled in entrepreneurship, though it was the illicit kind, forging high school diplomas. His ambitions were large. Escobar dreamed of a career in criminal law, even dreaming to become president. Yet the lack of money cut those dreams into pieces, rerouting his path to the streets, where his true education in crime began. His criminal career kicked off with relatively simple crimes, stealing tombstones, erasing the names, and reselling them for profit. Soon, the petty thefts transformed into grander schemes, joining gangs to steal cars and moving into the murky world of kidnappings. Escobar's gang didn't just demand ransoms, they were ruthless, sometimes destroying ransom notes even after the payments were made. Their notoriety surged with the kidnapping of a popular businessman, Diego Echevarria, in the summer of 1971. The $50,000 ransom they received for Echevarria marked Escobar's gang as major players in the world of violent crime. As his criminal enterprises grew, so did his ambition and his capacity for brutality. From tombstones to kidnappings, each step was a stone laid on the path to becoming a feared drug lord who would one day rule an empire. The same streets that witnessed his impoverished youth watched as he carved a path drenched in both blood and money, leading to his eventual reign as the undisputed kingpin of the cocaine trade, commanding a daily traffic of 15 tons of the substance into the US. It was a far cry from the life of poverty he was born into. Escobar wasn't just a man who made money, he was a man who made his money make money, turning his initial journey into crime into a billion-dollar empire that would shake the world. Now, back to our island, which is about as lively as a library in a ghost town. With only 800 residents, mostly farmers and fishermen, the privacy rating was off the charts, perfect for a man whose hobbies included dodging law enforcement and making it rain with cash. So much cash that he allegedly spent $1,000 on rubber bands each month just to keep it all bundled neatly. Talk about positive problems, huh? But here's where it gets real. The mansion. This wasn't just any old seaside shack. This was a hideaway fit for a drug lord. 15 private jets, 6 helicopters, and more luxury cars than in a rap music video. It was all here. Yet, the most bizarre aspect of Escobar's riches lay in how he managed it. With too much to store, he resorted to burying it. Yep, the earth literally became his bank, and you'd think that's where it'd be safe, right? Wrong. His buried money literally became a feast for rats. Yep, you heard that right. Rats were dining on dollars. So much so that Escobar's accounts reported a 10% loss of his income, which translates to about $2.1 billion annually, all thanks to these unexpected guests. So, what would you do with a cool $2.1 billion? That's the kind of cash that could buy you your own island, a fleet of luxury jets, or even make your own sports team. Imagine having so much money that you could lose billions to rodents and still be one of the richest folks around. But let's get real for a second. How could Escobar's crew have solved this pricey pest problem? Maybe a switch to steel vaults or a savvy investment in a bank or two would have saved those bills from becoming rat snacks. But then again, when you're a kingpin of the illicit empire, traditional banking probably isn't your go-to move. And let's face it, going legit with his money wasn't exactly in Escobar's playbook. Could they have unleashed a cat army to tackle the issue? Perhaps. But in a world where trust is thinner than a counterfeit bill, maybe Escobar was too paranoid to let anyone, even exterminators, near his cash stash. Or maybe, just maybe, he had so much dough that a few billion here or there didn't faze him. We can only guess. And now we're faced with another question. What turn of events led to the downfall of Pablo Escobar, the infamous drug lord once dubbed the King of Cocaine, and by extension, the downfall of his secret island mansion? As the Colombian government intensified its crackdown on the narcotics empire, Pablo Escobar's days were numbered. The end began to loom for the notorious kingpin in the early 90s, with pressure mounting from the relentless pursuit by the Colombian National Police, the American government, and not least, his formidable adversaries, the Cali cartel. The chase that unfolded was incredible. The 16-month hunt for Escobar was both tireless and fraught with danger. Armed with technology provided by the United States, the elite search bloc, a Colombian Specials Operation Unit, narrowed down their quarry. Finally, on December 2nd, 1993, they traced Escobar to a seemingly ordinary house in a middle-class barrio of Medellin. As the forces closed in, what could have been an arrest turned into a deadly shootout. Pablo attempted a final desperate escape, darting across the rooftops. He was a target in a dull, urban landscape that he once controlled in full. In a hail of gunfire, Escobar was fatally wounded. Controversy shrouds his last moments. Whether the fatal shot to his head was self-inflicted or the result of the fierce gun battle remains a topic of heated debate. In the wake of his death, Escobar's once mighty Medellin cartel crumbled, and the Cali cartel quickly filled the vacuum until the mid-90s, when it too succumbed to the government's crackdown. But the demise of the man did little to fade the myth. In Medellin, particularly among the poor whose lives he had impacted, Escobar was mourned as a fallen Robin Hood, a title he had fed through acts of strategic benevolence. As thousands attended his funeral, some established his memory as a saint. Escobar was buried at the Monte Sacro Cemetery. And that's how we got here, and what led to this crumbling property. The parties are long over, and the sound system has been replaced by the relentless Caribbean sea breeze whistling through the broken windows. But this only scratches the surface. Wait until you see his other luxury homes.
News of Miami Beach mansion that defines a critical era in South Florida history will soon be demolished.
The Pink Mansion, once owned by Colombian kingpin Pablo Escobar, it's coming down tomorrow.
So, Pablo Escobar's Miami properties recently got bought up for a cool $10 million, which is really nothing in comparison to his wealth. We're talking about the kingpin of a sprawling 7.7 square mile estate that's located smack bang in the middle of Puerto Triunfo. That's about as far from Medellin as you'd drive to catch a major league ball game, and this place, it's in a league of its own. Back in the day, Hacienda Nápoles was just a mansion. It was like Noah's Ark met Jurassic Park. Giraffes? Check. Rhinos? Check. Elephants? Check. The whole savannah was there, plus a dinosaur exhibit that would make your local museum green with envy. The twist? It's all family friendly now. You and your kids can now pet the same beasts that once roamed Pablo's personal playground, which by the way was once valued at a whopping $5 billion. And just like that, the man's legacy is a mix of ruins and riches. You've got the crumbling walls of what was a gangster's paradise standing side by side with a park where the little ones play. It's weird, right? It's like 1 minute you're on top of the world and the next you're a history lesson for tourists. But now that we've seen some of his other properties, let's return back to his secret island mansion.
Conocer a Disney siempre es un sueño de cualquier ser humano. El papá se volvía un niño en ese parque con Sebas. Se subía a todas las montañas rusas así se muriera del pánico porque no le gustaban las montañas rusas, pero igual todo lo que fuera posible para ver a Sebas feliz.
La Casa Grande, or the Big House, is a once glamorous retreat belonging to the notorious Pablo Escobar. Tucked away on La Isla Grande in the Caribbean forests, it's quite a place that's hard to find and far from the noisy city life. To get there, you need to catch a boat from Cartagena and then hike through the thick jungle, since there's no map or signs to lead the way. This hidden spot is empty now, except for wild animals that roam around his crumbling walls. It's not like Escobar's other properties. La Casa Grande has been left alone. Here, you can see the broken down wooden houses that used to be fancy, with great views of the ocean. There's also a large swimming pool that now sits empty. No one's been taking care of La Casa Grande after Escobar's properties were taken by the government. It's like the house and the land around it are just frozen in time, showing how everything used to be. Walking around, you can almost picture the parties and the fancy boats that used to come here. But now, It's all quiet. It's a spot that tells the story of Escobar without using any words, just with the empty buildings and the silence that hangs over them. Here, plants are pretty much throwing a house takeover. They've climbed the walls and they're laying down roots, literally all over Pablo's once slick floors. And the gardens, they're not manicured lawns anymore, more like an all-you-can-eat buffet for the local gang of feral pigs. It's a weird feeling walking where the kingpin of the Medellin cartel used to relax. This was his spot to escape the heat, both from the law and that scorching Colombian sun. The place had over 300 rooms that were all about the bling and the boom, decked out for the mega-rich and the famous. Imagine that. Gold shower heads in the bathrooms worth more than a decent used car. And to Pablo, that was just pocket change. Back in the day, if you wanted to hit up La Casa Grande, you'd have needed a speedboat or maybe a chopper. Nowadays, you'd just be buzzing the no-fly zone and ruffling some serious legal feathers. Now, here's the kicker. Pablo's mansion was guarded tighter than a bank vault. His bodyguards were the type who didn't think twice about shooting first and then asking questions. Actually, they just didn't ask questions. Today, though, the only shooting happening is with cameras by the odd tourists. Let's not forget about the locals, around 800 of them. They've stuck to fishing and farming, side-eyeing the colossal manor. You could say they've kept their distance from the drama, and honestly, can you blame them? And about Pablo, sure, he played Robin Hood with some of his dirty money, but let's not doll it up. The guy was no saint. He was a bona fide criminal, full stop. When he checked out in '93, he left behind a treasure trove of cash that still has treasure hunters digging up the countryside. They say millions are still stashed away. It's like the man himself. Pablo is many things to many people. A villain to some, a drug lord to others, and to a few, a twisted kind of hero. He sure lived large, and his secret mansion in La Isla Grande's lush forests is proof of that. But just like its former owner, the mansion had a bit of a fall from grace. If you're feeling brave and don't mind breaking a sweat, you can trek to the island. Don't expect the glamour of the past though. You'll be stepping into a slice of history, where the walls are lined with stories and secrets. Imagine kicking it back where Pablo did, taking in the silence that's replaced the thumping beats of the parties of the past. You won't be rubbing elbows with the rich and infamous, but you'll be walking in the footsteps of a man who, for better or worse, lived like there was no tomorrow. So, if you're up for a bit of an island adventure, throw on your boots and maybe channel your inner Indiana Jones. Who knows, maybe you'll find more than just memories. Just remember to leave the gold shower heads where you found them, okay? Today, the mansion is a relic, slowly being eaten by the jungle like the world's most expensive buffet. It's like nature's doing its best impression of a repo man, reclaiming every last marble tile and gold faucet. A tour of the estate now isn't about the glitz. It's a hike through a chapter of dark history, complete with a cautionary tale of riches to rags. So, what's the take-home from this sun-soaked saga? Pablo Escobar's secret island mansion is a jaw-dropping lesson in what happens when you have more dollars than sense. Or sense. It's a crumbling testament to a man who's had everything. Jets, cars, rubber bands, and yet, ultimately, nothing. Got your heart racing, didn't we? Hit that subscribe button and join us on this thrilling journey. And hey, drop a comment below if there's a topic that's been keeping you up at night. We might just turn the spotlight on it next.